Okay. My name is Kurt Taylor. I'm from the Monster Tree team. We're a small team that's currently working in development on a game called Privateers, which we're looking to go in early release for sometime within the next couple months or so
Well,
on Steam. Sorry.
that's all fine. Hello, Kurt, and hello, other people that are watching the video thing. In a nutshell, can you tell me what kind of game we're talking about?
Okay. So, Privateers is it's at its core it's a roguelike that's been inspired by a bunch of other games like FTL or Sid Meier's Pirates. But you have a crew of people who are on your boat, and you have a central town where you collect quests and crew members and gear and stuff like that, and you go out on different missions in the world. And in participating in these missions, you discover the world. You make choices and the decisions that have ramifications throughout the world as you're playing. And we don't have kind of like your classic type of story arc. It's more of stories kind of come to light as you explore in the world. Not every playthrough will have the same experience as is classic for roguelikes. And we definitely encourage people to play multiple times and find different adventures on each playthrough.
Why did you choose to make a game like this?
What was it? What was used to make it was? We
Now,
worked in.
I ask, why did you choose to make a game like this?
Okay. So I'm sorry about that. So I'm an artist, and I worked as a freelance illustrator for a long time. And that's a strange place to start, probably, for why is this game like this. But it started off. I worked on another project with my partner Sam Bayless called Legends of Descent, and it was successful and it launched in the Windows Store and stuff. So Sam and I talked back and forth, and one day he came to me and he said, "Hey, I have this. I've built this basics of a game, which is this dungeon game where you kind of walk. You're in an arena basically, where infinite guys come at you, and you kill them all, and you take their loot. And I'm not the kind of person who usually does profit sharing with someone, but or does a partnership or whatever. But Sam and I had a good relationship, and he gave me a playable game. So I signed on board, and I said, if we're going to do this kind of a game, where we have like an arena where you're just going to play and kill people, an arena is boring. We need to break out of that, and we need to make a game where it's an arena that moves. So we put it on a boat. That way we have an arena that you get to fight in, and that arena can go from place to place, and you're able to explore a world while not having to give us a whole bunch of environments to participate in. Now, that being said, once you start working on a project, scope creep happens, and we've kind of gone all over the place and had fun with allowing you to be able to explore places, go places. And once we put the boat in there, we had to bring these places to life. Basically, we ourselves. This kind of game developed organically.
Did the game become what you literally planned it to become before the start of development?
Well, I mean, I don't think we've ever had a firm idea of what the game was going to be from its initial inception. Because of its organic development, it's been an exploration as much as it has been like a roadmap. We haven't planned so much where we're going, and it goes to also our approach toward development. My partner Sam and I, he's on the other end of the United States from where I'm at, and we've actually never met in person. And he does primarily the coding side, and I do primarily the art side. And we have confidence in one another to do their work and to find places to put work into the project. So we both have just put what we wanted into it, and it has become like our work combined. Does that make sense? Like he has what he wants there, I have what I want there, and as we put them together, a game has come out of it.
Yes, I understand. And it's also really clear. What inspired you to become an indie game developer?
Same reason I think we all do it, right? Love of games, realization that it's accessible. Whenever I was a freelance illustrator, and I was mainly doing artwork for books and stuff like that. And it occurred to me that there might be indie developers out there who are looking for people to work on stuff, and that just opened the world to me of indie development, and I just started pursuing it. Why did I go indie? It's because that's a way of accessing my ability to make games. I've been interested in games and more than just video games for quite a while, because I've also done card games and board games and stuff like that as well. So it was an obvious transition for me, especially considering I loved games growing up as well, like video games.
Is this your first game?
Legends of Descent would be the first game I worked on. I've done some concept art for a couple other games, but that wouldn't be actual game art or game development. So Legends of Descent would probably be the first one of those. I created quite a bit of assets for Legends of Descent. So this is my first full-on project where I've been involved since inception and have weighed in so heavily on its development and direction.
For what platforms did you intend to release the game?
Early on, we had hoped that we would hope to be able to target Xbox and PlayStation, the consoles, as well as going towards Steam. But through that development process, some of the early versions you played as a character, one person who ran around and did things. And as we worked, the crew expanded and greater control over the crew became necessary. We started approaching combat in a more complex manner, where positioning and timing and organization were all key to success. And we migrated over to more of a control schema that's similar to what you would see in a real-time strategy game. And those type of control schemas don't often work well on a console. So now we're targeting just Steam until we can figure out control problems as it goes to the consoles, because Steam has mouse support. That's what it's down to.
What do you think is your best attitude in life?
I don't know. No, not certainty. I like not being certain about things. That way, if you're not certain about things, then anything is possible, right? Like, if I'm not sure, then let's check it and see. That way, anything is possible at some point.
For how long have you been working on this project?
Probably 5 years, which is a pretty crazy amount of time looking back on it. And I think that 5 years was probably a bit swollen, right? I think a project should be, one of the lessons I've gotten from this is the idea of maybe cutting a project down, simplifying it, like tightening in the corners. But if I started over now, I think we would have a shorter development time. But it's also because it's been a project of love that Sam and I both participated in, and he and I have both had families that develop and stuff during that time. Then it's been a fine development period, I think. But I think that a future prospect, I would probably try to look at something as a tighter approach.
What was your day-to-day process for making this game?
It varies so wildly. Some days I come in and I look at those things that are needed in the game, and I'll look at those things that I think that I want to put in the game, and they have a little fight in my head, and then I end up doing one of them, and I'll sit down and try to cobble out time in my life to be able to spend time working on them. Sometimes the decisions about what I work on is dependent on what my life is like. Sometimes I can't find space to be able to draw, so I'll spend some time working on code for something that I would want to exist in the game, or I'll do a layout for an island or a location or something of that manner. Or maybe I can do a type of art that will allow me to work with a mouse instead of a stylus. So the day-to-day varies so widely because of the type of space that I'm working in. Yeah.
Will that be the same for potential future games you will make?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the next project's going to be. So what I'm thinking of is maybe trying to organize some people for some type of a collaboration. I think it would be exciting to develop a setting and a story, like a big major arc, and then organize a few different teams of people, and each team would be involved in building a game that has a story that exists in this greater arc, and then release a series of games where everyone does some type of a profit share organization for the release process. But I released a series of games that are all facets of this one greater story, but each of which tells a small story of its own. I think of it as like the movie Rashomon, whenever the investigator is talking to different people and getting their different perspectives. That's what I would like to probably try in the near future, but I don't know if that'd be my next project yet or not.
What were the biggest inspirations for making this game?
Sid Meier's Pirates, obviously. You can't get into working on a pirate game without looking at it. Sid Meier games are always awesome. Pirates especially is a lot of fun. I love it from back in the day. One of our big influences is FTL. I don't know if you played Faster Than Light before, but it's a blast. It's freaking hard. Not only is the structure of it similar to what we're doing, where you have a ship and a crew that you run around and tell them what to do, but also like the concept of not pulling punches and being hard, taking joy on the fact that sometimes we're just going to kill the crew. Sometimes the player, if they haven't made the right choices or if things have just gone wrong or poorly, then sometimes the players that are going to die, and that being okay. What are some other inspirations? Probably be fair to say that we've taken some inspiration from World of Warcraft.
What makes this game different from others?
Oh, all right then. Privateers is probably different in the fact that it's different because of the reason that it takes so long to explain what it is. It takes elements of a whole lot of games and puts them together in some kind of a fashion that's a bit unique. Because it is a fantasy naval game, for one thing, which is pretty different, right? When I say fantasy, you get to cast spells, and there are dragons and monsters and stuff like that exist in the game. But it's also the kind of game where you need to control, monitor the amount of time that you have to accomplish the tasks that you want to do. It's the kind of game where you get to explore. It's the kind of game where you get to participate in like stories and make choices that are important. Privateers is unique in the fact that it does several different things in one package that you often don't see in a game like this.
What do you think is the most interesting part of the game?
I think the combat's a lot of fun. I really enjoy kind of just how it flows, how it feels.
What game engine are you using, and why did you decide to use it?
We're developing inside of Unity. It's for all the obvious reasons that everybody does. It's prolific. You can build out to anything that you'd like. My partner decided on the technology, to be honest, and it was what he was experienced with as well in his previous applications that he developed. Sam's put together. I've only worked on one previous game other than Privateers, but he's made several himself.
What setbacks did you encounter during the project, and do you feel like you learned anything from them?
Probably fair to say it's been various, right? Like all the setbacks are always some kind of a hard thing to try to figure out. Like, how do we handle controlling all of the team members all at once? How do we handle the fact that sometimes an activated ability is not visible for a character? Most of the setbacks are all about like decisions as it goes to like how to create something that makes sense. I don't know how to present this.
If you could go back in time, what would you do different?
Not do just straight top down. Privateers, the perspective is all directly overhead, and which is fine, I guess. But it provides a lot of challenges as it goes to your art assets and the look of the game. I think that more of a 3/4 perspective is just more compelling and more easily communicates what's happening in your environments.
If you can advise...
I would also probably restrict the scope.
Sorry?
I'd also probably restrict the scope a little bit.
If you can advise a new indie game developer, what will you tell him?
As in brand new, make a game that's very small and don't finish it. And then move on, or finish it and move on, right? Like the first 10 games you make are probably going to be horrible. So go on to get on working on some other project. You're going to learn so many lessons in those failures that you're actually going to eventually be able to build something that's pretty good.
What do you feel is success for an indie game developer?
I think it has to be defined by the developer themselves. For me personally, I quantify my success by sales to some degree. There are also different levels of success. So like completion is a success. Getting certain features done is a success. In a way, I would consider this whole project to be a success if we got to the point where we could say we are done, which I think is the low bar. But after that, I measure everything in how much it appeals to other people, and if people saying that they like a game is one thing, but people spending money on your game is them actually taking a step. And if someone is willing to actually give up something to be able to play the game, that's more of a more gratifying, if you ask me. It's a further test of a proof that they like what you've made. So, in a way of measuring success for me is to say I've made so much money on it. So my bar of success for privateers is to make some type of profit, and if we make that, I'll be happy.
To make other game developers learn something, what resources would you recommend?
Well, the ones that I enjoy watching, and I don't know if this is right to put a plug in here for any other sites. Is that okay if I mention just the other channels or other things that I watch for inspiration or for?
Yes, that's no problem.
Okay, great. I just didn't want to. Yeah. So Extra Credits is phenomenal. It's a YouTube channel. They talk a lot about game development. The things they talk about on there are very, very spot on, and they have some really great insights. Extra Credits is a really great resource. Another one for coding itself and for introductions to coding and just their general approach is another channel called Brackeys. I like Brackeys and just the way they break down his like approaches toward developing things inside of Unity. Unity's website is great. Most of the stuff that I'm talking about, other than Extra Credits, is Unity related. YouTube in general is a great source. Just type in whatever you're having trouble with, right? And find some kind of a resolution for it.
What do you think about current marketing strategies in the indie game industry?
I don't really know what ones work. I don't know if anyone fully does. It's so difficult. Other than streamers talking about your games and enjoying playing your games, I'm not sure. And that's something we're trying to crack. Right now, You can't put up like classic advertising videos or something like that because they really aren't successful. I found some luck inside of Reddit, kind of talking about my game, but it's a hard nut to crack. Like what is success in marketing right now? I don't know if I can give you a good answer to that one.
Where do you see the indie game market going in a few years?
I expect it to get smaller. I don't know how much longer it can hold to everybody who's developing in it. There's a whole bunch of people who are making games that are really good, and they're making them because they want to make games and because they enjoy making games. So I don't know how people who are as concerned about making money can really subsist. But as that goes, I expect more and more wonderful games to be coming out in the future. Over the last couple of years, stuff like companies like Annapurna or whatever, I can never say their name right. They made Edith Finch and Donut County and some other stuff. Them and Finji, those companies have come up with some really creative and inspirational types of games. And so though I think the amount of people making games might be smaller, I think the type of games we're going to see that are great are going to be very creative and very fun, and from companies like those two companies. Supergiant's another good one.
Which indie game developers, if any, offered you any support or knowledge in creating this game?
None. Well, this has all been. Other than the resources that we found on the internet, like someone who's had a tutorial or how to do this or whatever. This has just been myself and my partner having a passion for making a game.
Is there a AAA studio you would work for if you could?
AAA? Probably not. I don't think that I would work well in that type of environment. And I guess maybe I've got a bad taste in my mouth for or bad expectation of a big AAA company. I think about like being the guy who's assigned to handle doing animations for a guy who's catching a fly ball in left field, and that's the only thing you do for 6 months or more. And doing a task like that for that long, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. So I can't think of a AAA company that I'd want to work for.
Which game, either indie or AAA, do you wish you had worked on?
Edith Finch. What Remains of Edith Finch. I'd like to participate in at least one of the lives or something like that. Participating in like that type of a story building type of game, that would have been exciting. That'd have been fun.
Have you ever worked for other gaming companies?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever worked for other gaming companies?
No, I've not.
Did you have any gaming education at school, or did you learn the whole development process on your own?
I learned it on my own, and from watching videos, from reading online, and being passionate about it.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in eastern Kentucky, here in the United States.
What were your childhood interests?
Video games. I remember my first system was an Atari 2600 or 4800 or whatever. Playing it on a black and white TV, playing Space Invaders and what's called the old ET game, and we had Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and so I had a lot of early video game influence, but also a lot of my interests involved games of different types, primarily like role-playing games. Played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. Got my first red box set whenever I was 10. I've also been drawing since always. I was the kind of guy who started drawing whenever I was young. I remember being surprised when they told me I passed first grade because I spent my entire time in first grade drawing and not doing my classwork. So whenever I went to college, I just immediately majored in art because that's what I did.
What is your favorite video game of all time?
Adventure. From the Atari. I think they mention it in Ready Player One a bit too, but it's you're a big giant clunky pixel, and you run around fighting dragons with a pixely spear, while a bat flies around trying to steal the spear from you. It's a good game.
What is your favorite video game of this year and why?
Well, it came out this year. Favorite game of the last bunch of years have been Edith Finch, maybe Night in the Woods.
That was my final question. Do you have other things you want to say?
I don't know. I appreciate you giving me the time here to talk about my game and speak about game development and stuff. And I feel like I need to say something else, but I don't know what else to say.
Okay, well, for all the viewers, the other links to the social media and everything for this game will all be in the description below.